this is going to be a preparation for part of your final, which is an editing quiz. There's going to be a press release, 25 possible um, AP errors, and all you'll have to do is indicate if it's correct or incorrect. So here is a review on some of the AP stuff that will be in that editing quiz. So I have the quiz in front of me, so we're going to go through everything that will be on it. So I want you to grab your AP style guide, and I'm going to tell you where you need to turn to so that you can read along when we discuss some of these elements. So the first one, acronyms and abbreviations. So that's going to be found. That'll be the first page. So page 1, abbreviations and acronyms. Abbreviations and most acronyms should be avoided in places like headlines. Depending on your readership, you should not use an acronym that your reader would not quickly recognize. In addition to that, you do not follow an organization's full name with an abbreviation or acronym in parentheses or whatever the case may be. If an abbreviation or acronym would not be clear on the second reference without being accompanied by the full name of the organization, don't use it. So basically what this comes down to is first reference, you're going to spell it out. Second reference, if the audience and the reader would recognize the acronym, use it. So there's your example. All right, so we're going to talk about months. And so this is going to be located on page 191. Capitalize the name of months in all uses. When a month is used with a specific date, abbreviate only January, February, August, September, October, November, and December. And you can see on the screen how those are abbreviated. When a phrase lists only a month and a year, do not separate the year with commas. When a phrase refers to a month, day, and year, set off the year with commas. So, here are some examples. So, if we said January 2016 was a cold month, we do not abbreviate January. If January is accompanied by an actual day, we will use an abbreviation. So, January 2nd was the coldest day of the month. Or Wolf started on January 2nd. So that's how we're going to handle that. Those are some examples that are going to be pretty closely related to the quiz. Courtesy titles. Courtesy titles are going to be on page 286 under the titles portion. So a courtesy title is Mr., Mrs., Miss, Doctor, Miss, Sir, or Madam. In general, we do not use these courtesy titles unless it is in a direct quote. The other instance is if you have a story where there are two people who share the same last name, you can use a courtesy title to help distinguish between the two people, because we do reference people by their last name after the first reference, so it can get confusing. So the exception to the rule on the doctor, if they're a medical doctor, we can go ahead and use that title. So if we were going to reference somebody from our department, maybe Lonnie Luchek, she has a PhD, and we would reference her as Lonnie Luchek, and then after that we would reference her as Luchek. Let's go into names, and already kind of talked about it a little bit, but on the first reference, you will use the full name. On the second reference, you will use the last name. So that one's pretty simple. All right, serial commas. This is going to be located in the punctuation section of your book. That's going to be page 320. So if we go to the comma section, we have entry that is titled in a series. So we will use commas to separate elements in a series, but do not put a comma before the conjunction in most simple series, the last conjunction. So the flag is red, comma, white, and blue. We do not need a comma after or before the that conjunction. Use commas to separate elements in a series, but do not put a comma before the conjunction in most simple series. So we have the example up there. That was the entry from our book. So should be pretty simple to apply this to the editing quiz. All right, capitalization. This one can get interesting. So we are going to capitalize proper nouns. And a good rule of thumb to decide if something needs to be capitalized is to look it up in the book. If there's not an entry that does, and it says that it needs to be capitalized, that's your first indicator that this thing may not need to be capitalized. If it is the full name of an organization, then you may go ahead and capitalize it. We want to avoid being frivolous in our capitalizations. So if something is a subsidiary of an organization, then we would not capitalize it. So if we're referencing let's say an ag business quiz bowl team, that's not the official name of anything. That's more of a subset of our university. If we're referencing something like a national championship, that is not proper. We don't have the full name. We don't know what national championship it is, so it should be lowercase. Spelling, that one should be pretty straightforward. Just be sure you spell words correctly. You can always look them up in this book or a dictionary or Google it. Numbers. We're going to keep this simple. You can always reference your book, but we're going to spell out 1 through 9, and we're going to use figures for 10 and above. I know that it gets much more in depth, but you can reference your book when you come across those situations. Direct quotes. So, I'm going to go to direct quotes in the punctuation section. For direct quotations, what you're going to do is you're going to surround the exact words of a speaker or written when reported in a story. So we have the first example up there. I have no intention of staying, he said. Notice where the comma is. The comma appears within the quotations, followed by the attribution. The next example, the attribution is sandwiched between the two pieces of the quote. I do not object, he said, to the tenor of the report. This next one is interesting. So we have the attribution at the beginning. Franklin said, followed by a comma. A penny saved is a penny earned. And notice that the A is capitalized. The reason that this is written the way it is because we have the attribution at the beginning, and the quotation is a complete sentence in this case. A penny saved is a penny earned is a complete sentence. So the period appears within the quotation marks, and we have a comma after our attribution. This last one, let's take a look first at where the attribution is. The attribution is a speculator. And let's look at the quote, which is too conservative for inflationary times. I think I typed that right. Yes. That is not a complete sentence. We don't have a subject. So, in this instance, we do not use a comma after our attribution. Commas with conjunctions. So, if the two clauses could stand alone, use a comma before the conjunction. If you come across an instance where that is not the case, then you should not use a comma before the conjunction. So let's say, for example, the new building lets students and faculty to train and research in innovative ways. So the new lab allows students is what we have before the conjunction, and after the conjunction is faculty to train and research in innovative ways. Those are not two independent clauses that could stand alone. So we do not need to use a comma before the conjunction, which in this case is and. All right, so that's the last, and that should cover everything in this test. I'm taking a look one more time to make sure everything's good. You can use your book, so if you need to, feel free to use the AP Style Guide. I would recommend it. Another thing is we really only need to attribute a quote once. We do not need it before and after the quote, so just keep that in mind. If we introduce the person saying the quote, we really don't need the attribution again. All right, so that should about do it. Be sure you have your book handy while you go through this quiz, and good luck.